just before the video starts, I just want to make it very clear that I don't have a background in computer coding or technology like that. What I do understand is the very basics, which is if you take stuff out of the game, like you remove items, you remove entities, you remove soundtracks, you tone the graphics down a bit, then the RAM or storage capacity size, the gigabytes, the megabytes, the GameCube blocks, whatever, tends to shrink then in size. That's what I do understand, and that's the whole point of these videos. Alright, let's get into the video here. So Kirby's Air Ride released in 2003, and ended up being the only Kirby game on the entire GameCube. There wasn't an adventure game or whatever. Kirby did appear in other games like Super Smash Bros. Melee or the NES games, I believe, in the Animal Crossing GameCube. You'd have to be lucky, but you could find one of the Kirby games. And there are probably some other examples, but those are probably the more prominent. But that was kind of shocking when I learned that. I mean, Kirby is one of the big figureheads, one of the big mascots for Nintendo. You have Pikachu, you have Mario, Link, Zelda, Kirby, and I guess now you could add this, the Inkling Squids in there. You could add a bunch of new characters and whatnot. But Kirby is one of the big ones. And when I learned that the only game was a racer, it was interesting. I don't own the game. I've heard about it before, and I've been doing my research for this. So, I wanted to know, would it be possible for Kirby's Air Ride to fit onto the N64? Now, as it turns out, Kirby's Air Ride was planned for the N64, and in fact was supposed to be releasing sometime in '97. But a bunch of stuff ended up happening, and that never happened, and the only Kirby game we got on the N64 was Kirby and the Crystal Shards. Now, apparently it wasn't going to be called Kirby's Air Ride, it was going to be called Kirby Ball 64, where there wouldn't be any other carts, kind of like Mario Kart 64, you'd only have the one cart, or the one Air Ride, or whatever, which would be the Superstar, and you'd have characters like Kirby, and DDD, and Mr. Frosty just driving around, and pretty much it'd be functioning similar to 1080 snowboarding, where you just go down a straight course of warp stars, and then, you can jump off, and do a couple of abilities and that sort of thing. It's just a straight down course, again, similar to 1080 snowboarding. But that didn't end up happening. We ended up getting the game 7 years later in 2003 when it was initially planned in 1996. I mean, here, we even have the E3 promotion from 96 about Kirby's Air Ride. It's a small one, but that's what it would have looked like. So now I'm wondering, why did it release on the GameCube? Well, apparently it was due to time constraints and them wanting to add more stuff, and of course the N64 wasn't powerful enough to do it, so they eventually just pushed it back to their newer console. Now, Kirby's Air Ride is a pretty simple game. You got 3 different game modes, and the main one being the racing mode. There's 4-player multiplayer, 9 different tracks, 16 different air ride machines as they're called, 11 different power-ups and abilities and whatnot, and then the only racers are Kirby. Different color Kirby, mind you. There's 8 different colors. You have pink, yellow, pink of course, yellow, blue, red, green, purple, brown, white, the latter 4 being unlockable. So, cool, you can actually just change the color and whatnot, that's kind of cool. But again, it's a very simple racing game, with actually only 2 buttons too. You got your joystick, of course, the gray joystick on the GameCube, which allows you to turn it left and right, whatever, and then A is to go. There's different carts that do different things, like, you can stop and then you boost forward, or A, you just hold A to go. For the most time, most of the carts go automatically, so A is really just to speed up. So really, you could even call it a one, controlled game. You just using the joystick and you go automatically, whatever. It's a very simple racing game, which begs the question, again, why couldn't it fit on the N64? So that's the question we're going to ask today. What could we take out of the game for it to fit onto an N64 cartridge at 64 megabytes? Now, I want to do some digging, because I was like, so most GameCube games are 1.5 gigabytes. That was the maximum storage space you could get on it. And I did some digging and found on an old GameFAQs post from 13 years ago, so this is 2023, it would have been 2010. The Wii would have been in its, prime, but, sure, 2010, people are talking about Kirby's Air Ride. Yeah, turns out Kirby's Air Ride is roughly, according to this poster here, 1.3 gigabytes of space. And the example I always use is Resident Evil 2, being a 2-disc PS1 game, both discs being 700 megabytes of space, so 1.4 gigabytes total, crammed onto a 64 megabyte cartridge. So this being 1.3 gigabytes, it is definitely on the higher end than what we've looked at in the past, but it could definitely be possible if Resident Evil 2 is possible. So, what could we do? Well, if we take a quick one more look, I'll slow it down for you here, of the Air Ride promo that it has, you can definitely tell if you then compare it to the graphics on the GameCube version, it is a lot watered down, a lot more less detailed. So pretty much all the graphics of Kirby's Air Ride, we just switch them back to what the N64 would have been and problem solved. Now, the problem is here is it has a bunch of game modes. This is where I think a lot of people are going to disagree with me because I've never played Kirby's Air Ride. I guess I should make that clear. I've never played the game, but from what I've looked at it, it's definitely a more simple racing game than compared to, say, Mario Kart. And I know that that's probably a hot take because I've never played the game. But 3 game modes, 9 tracks for the basic racing mode, I think this game should be our new hypothetical version of Kirby's Air Ride for the N64. Should be a very watered down version. So we take out the 2 game modes and are left with the Air Ride mode, or just the racing mode with the 9 tracks. So we take out all that other stuff. I think that would be fine. Out of the 11 abilities, considering there's a lot more items in Mario Kart 64, let's keep all the abilities. I think that makes sense. The Kirby colors, considering there's 8, it's literally just Kirby retextured. That barely takes up any space, so that's fine. The 9 tracks, fine. The 16 Air Ride machines, though, considering Mario Kart 64 ran pretty well because they only had the 1 go-kart for every character, I think, now, this is different. Take the 16 carts and change them down to 3. One of them being the Kirby's Dream Star cart, of course. And then the other 2 Air Ride machines would just be more complex ones with more mechanics. I don't know what this one is called, I didn't get the name, but it's where you kind of use your A button to launch yourself forward, and you go extremely fast, and then you stop, and you have to keep launching yourself forward. Definitely a more competitive one, that sort of thing, I think. And then this one, which is definitely a more heavy turning one here, I think these 3 carts would be good. So we change it down to 3 carts, which you get a more different varieties. You have the normal Kirby's Air Ride one, which is kind of like your all-around one. You get really heavy turning one, and clearly a little bit more bulky slow one, so you got to be a little more challenging and whatnot. And then you have the one that boosts super forward, and it's probably very hard to use, but again, kind of grapples onto stuff. I think that would be perfect, and that would be the carts we would look at. The 3 carts there. And again, like I said, I haven't played the game, and on the wiki it just said 16 Air Ride machines, so I couldn't even find the name of what these Air Ride machines are called. And yes, I know I mentioned I called them carts quite a couple times, but that's just, I'm just doing that interchangeably, and it's shorter than to say Air Ride machine every single time. So that's why I'm just calling them carts. And again, yeah, I know there's probably some that are some people's favorites and some that people don't like, but stringing it down to 3 to be the more balanced, like again, a balanced one, a challenging one, and then an easier one, I think isn't too bad. Now, of course, Kirby's Air Ride also has enemies around the track, which is how you get your abilities. You know, you can suck them up, and then you get your different abilities, like your lightning and your sword and whatever. What we do for those is pretty much the same thing, but there'd have to be less enemies, less fellows on the track. It'd be a little bit difficult. Also, a lot of the tracks would have to be shrunken down, of course, some of the soundtracks, listen, that sort of thing. So yeah, our version of Kirby's Air Ride would look something similar to this. 3 Air Ride machines. You have the basic star, the one that's a little bit bulkier and slower, but with a much easier turning, and then the one where you kind of stop, grapple yourself, and zoom forward and do that constantly, the more really tough one to learn. Then you have the 9 tracks, with the graphics being turned down to similarly that Kirby's Air Ride 64 promo from the E3 there, and of course some of the soundtracks are probably either removed or just constantly repeated, similar to a game like Mario Kart 64. All the skins are really just Kirby. You have the 8 colors total because it's just very simple to retexture Kirby. And that's pretty much it. That would be our version of Kirby's Air Ride for the N64. So let's just ask again, would it be possible to shrink Kirby's Air Ride from the GameCube down onto the 64 cartridge? I think it would be. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video nonetheless. Maybe if you like, leave a nice comment down below. Maybe hit that bell, maybe hit that subscribe button because the goal is 250 subscribers by the end of the year. And I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll see you guys next time for another Could This Video Game Be Shrunken Down to Fit onto an N64 Cartridge video. Bye, guys.